Hi, Oscar.
Hello.
You have just arrived.
Yes.
You are indeterminately wet.
Yes, it's raining a lot, but I arrived all the same.
Yes.
Because rain cannot harm me. I am invulnerable to rain.
To water.
Yes.
Or well, rain. I guess rain is more.
Yes, water is another matter.
Yes. We are ostensibly here to talk about Star Wars.
Yes.
And we've already rolled. We do this off camera. Because we have to prepare. So for the viewers at home, you do not get to be here when we spin the wheel.
Nope.
But we've spun the wheel for matchups, and we've landed on, I'd say, a couple of I'm gonna say low impact Star Wars game and kind of eclectic matchups.
I feel like if last episode was, heavy impact, like, the Death Star laser level of matchup, this one is more like, I guess that little guy who sits with Jabba and laughs a lot, like him dying off screen or something. That's what this episode is.
Does he die off screen?
I don't know what happens to that guy.
Doesn't he go and then jump away or something?
Got my eyes started. Help! Quickly up.
Well, whatever. I'm sure he's fine.
Yeah, he probably
wherever
dies.
he is. He's
anyway, do you want to introduce our first matchup? What is our first matchup?
Well,
I don't even know which one
I
it
guess
is.
that will be determined by which matchup I choose to introduce.
You get to pick the one, and then I'll introduce the next one next episode.
Yes, but for this episode, of course, we are going to talk about Dark Forces versus the other game, Revenge of the Sith Game Boy Advance Edition.
Yes. I don't think we have 2 episodes in a row of the same person having played the game. But for this one, Dark Forces, you played.
Yes, I played Dark Forces and I played the game, Revenge of the Sith Game. A truly memorable game, yes. as you can see.
So I guess how we've done this for 2 episodes now is that we sort of talk a bit about both games. We pick a winner, and then we chat a bit about why the other game lost. Yes. Or we chat more about it, because I think we're definitely gonna... Yeah. Dark Forces is a classic. Or, well, it is called a classic.
Yes, I'll reiterate for the viewers that we played these games a long time ago.
Yeah, the first game played in the bracket, I think, was played 3 years ago at this point, maybe?
Exactly.
Something like that. But that one is a burning hot ember.
Yes.
Still. So that one is not super scary in terms of forgetfulness.
Absolutely. But I have reflected a lot about Dark Forces. I was reading the manual for Dark Forces recently because I looked it up on the internet. I'll say this before I say anything else about Dark Forces. Dark Forces has a great manual. The manual is really good.
But the manual isn't part of the game.
No, I know, but I want to talk about the manual.
Okay, talk about the manual.
Because the manual is something that I feel relates to what I actually thought was good about Dark Forces.
Oh, okay.
Particularly the good parts of Dark Forces, and if you don't know what Dark Forces is...
Oh yeah, maybe you should introduce
I should explain what the game is. Dark Forces is the first game in a series called technically Dark Forces. But
I'm gonna say that that isn't true. The game series is called Jedi Knight.
Well, okay. I guess that is true. So Dark Forces is a standalone game, unrelated to Jedi Knight, aside from sharing the protagonist, Kyle Katarn. And what Dark Forces is about, it's a first-person shooter.
It's a Doom... Dark Forces is a Doom clone made by LucasArts.
Yes.
On their own engine, called like the Force engine or some dumb shit like that.
Force engine sounds like some Warhammer stuff.
And Dark Forces is, I believe, the first Doom clone in which you could look up and down. So it had,
yes,
might even have had 3D mouse look. but I'm probably not.
That's incredible. Incredible information.
Yes.
Dark Forces is a standalone game that what you do in the game is you walk around like in Doom and you shoot stormtroopers, yada yada. You know how it goes.
Yeah, just like in Doom, you shoot the stormtrooper.
Yes, like the stormtroopers in Doom. And the thing that I took away most from the game is that the game its cutscenes are very good. I like the cutscenes in the game a lot because they are made in this like old pixel art style.
I'll be honest, I'm not a super big fan of the cutscenes. But you can lay out why you like them first.
Yes, I like them because I think the game is a bit ugly and the cutscenes look good. And also that I like the graphics of the cutscenes, and I think the briefings are pretty immersive. I think it's good that, you know, the game presents things very well, and then when it comes to actually playing the game, all those things kind of fall away, and it just becomes running around in a corridor, not knowing what you're doing, etc.
I think for me with Dark Forces, in terms of its actual gameplay, is that we're gonna keep going back to this when it comes to games starring Kyle Katarn. I'll put it like that. These games have, I think, in terms of like tile sets and enemies and what, I think most of the weapons are pretty good. They feel kind of Star Warsy, even though it's a bit weird that you have like rapid fire laser blasters. But I think most of that sort of world building kind of works visually. But the level design for all of these games is basically any place in the Star Wars universe is a labyrinthine hellhole.
Yeah.
And nothing...
there's like no normal place in Star Wars.
And nothing does this worse, I think, than Dark Forces 1. Because not only do you have a game that is literally labyrinthine, like the other ones, everything in a level looks exactly the same. Even though the levels themselves look different, I think, from each other. But in Dark Forces 1, you don't only get confused, you know, direction-wise in terms of hallways, you also get completely fucked sideways in terms of verticality. Because it's impossible to keep track of what's above you and below you.
Yeah. It's like how you mentioned that, this is one of the first games where you can look up and down.
Yeah.
And it's like they invented looking up and down, and then they forgot to invent, you know, one more dimension or something. It's just completely... It's very disorienting because it's like, you can look up and down, so we'll put enemies up here and they'll be shooting down at you, but you can't look that up and down. Or like because in the game, you don't... This isn't like, you know, a snappy game or whatever where you just, you know, point your gun everywhere and shoot everyone. It's like you're walking like a tank in this game. It's a Doom style like that. So
yeah, but you're not even. It's like Doom, but you're not Doom guy.
Yeah,
Doom guy. You know the head bob in Doom. Every step the Doom guy takes is 5 meters.
Yeah,
that is not the case with Kyle Katarn.
No, Kyle can't step 5 meters in one step.
No,
he steps a regular amount of meters.
You were talking about how you like the cutscenes.
Yes, I like the cutscenes because I have a certain fondness for the sort of graphics that appear in Dark Forces. I said this at the time that similarly to the cutscenes in, you know, like TIE Fighter stuff like that, I feel like LucasArts really missed out not making a Star Wars adventure game at the time. But
I think that is one of the reasons why I don't like the cutscenes, because the game feels like the cutscenes put you in a point-and-click adventure game. It looks like Monkey Island to me. Yeah. And Kyle Katarn looks like a fucking a Heavy Rain character.
Yeah.
You kind of half expect him to have press space to go Jan.
Yeah.
Jan. Jan.
It's also the matter that I feel like a beardless Kyle Katarn is like some kind of, you know, it's not a good look for Kyle. Thankfully, he seems to realize that later. But like that image of him standing, cross-armed, it's like, who is this guy? It's.
I think I like the Dark Trooper fat guy the most. The guy who looks like a burnt sausage.
Yeah,
that's probably my favorite character. Or Darth Vader.
Speaking of the Dark Trooper, this is the first game where Dark Trooper appears as like a concept, and that's it's like the beginning of the end, because like from now on, every Star Wars game is gonna have Dark Trooper, Dark Evil Stormtrooper that's cooler than a regular Stormtrooper.
But I think the Dark
Trooper with a lightsaber, like all that sort of things,
is okay to me just because it's a robot.
Yes, but
it's fine.
But that's what I mean, because this is this is where it starts. Like if it had stopped here as well, then it would have been fine. But instead you get like oh god, I just remember those Dark Troopers in Mandalorian. That was no good. I don't like that. I don't like the Dark Trooper.
Okay, I don't mind it in this game. If I'm being honest, I think it's fine. But I will say that my issues with the cutscenes, except taking an exception to the fact that I'll give it up and say that me not vibing with it because I feel like it looks like Monkey Island is 100% a taste thing. If you like that it feels like Monkey Island, then obviously that's a plus.
I don't like Monkey Island. I don't want people to believe that I like Monkey Island.
No, but that's not what I said.
No, but I'm making sure.
Okay. This guy loves Monkey Island. The problems with the cutscenes start immediately for me. I hate that there's a narrator in the beginning of this. I fucking hate that. Star Wars should not have a narrator. It sucks here. It fucking sucks ass in the Clone Wars show. It's horrible. Star Wars is not something that is being narrated by a dude.
No, certainly not. Star Wars is a heroic journey that is being experienced in
you read the crawl and then you're in it.
Yes.
You're supposed to be in it. I don't like that. I think it's horrible. I dislike. There are so many things in this that I dislike that are sort of extended universe adjacent or just straight up.
But this is like, it's interesting because this is like so early, like proper extended universe. Because we'll save that for the Jedi Knight review, but talked a bit in the past about how there's early extended universe, and then it gets bloated and becomes not Star Wars. And like in the early stuff, you can still see Star Wars. You might still feel like you're in Star Wars.
But I don't think that holds for this game.
Yes, I was gonna get to that.
The first step was a bad step.
Yes, exactly, and it doesn't help that it's so like visually. Like, because obviously, the Dark Forces isn't a movie. It's, it's a video game with pixels and so on. But I think that's why Jedi Knight feels more like, this could, be part Star Wars because it has the live action FMV stuff.
But I think it also has more. It's sort of like the people who designed the new things thought about it a bit more. I dislike, for example, the ship designs.
Yeah.
Basically, in every Jedi Knight game, I hate the Dark Trooper cruiser. That to me looks like it comes from Babylon 5 or something. It's like a weird, like giant.
I've never seen Babylon 5.
TIE fighter wedge thing. And I've always disliked both the Moldy Crow and the Raven's Claw. Both these are Jan/Kyle's ships. They also feel like Star Trek ships or something. I don't buy it. I think those designs are poor. And they show up in the cutscenes a lot.
Yes.
Good things about Dark Forces.
Good things about Dark Forces.
You get to punch a Kel Dragon.
Good things about Dark Forces. We didn't play the entire game. just like with Jedi Academy.
You pieced out in the sewers.
Yes, I declared that we had seen what was worth seeing in the game at that point because I didn't want to walk around anymore.
I think you find an informant in the sewers and then you have to go back out the sewers.
So I didn't want to play it anymore, so we stopped.
Yes.
That was the good thing.
I think the blaster sounds are good. I'll say that. And it does actually weigh... This quality weighs a lot for me in terms of a Star Wars game. The Stormtrooper blaster sounds and looks correct.
Yeah, it sounds like a New Hope blasters.
And its interaction with the Stormtroopers, that is, blasting them, sounds and looks correct.
Something that really disappears out of Star Wars in later years is blasters feeling like something, like an energy is being shot that just explodes into someone, and there's smoke and like fire burning, like that sort of thing is really well realized in Dark Forces.
It's great. But up against Dark Forces is Star Wars Revenge of the Sith GBA. I guess it's Star Wars : Episode 3 : Revenge of the Sith GBA. This one as well you played.
Yes.
You could argue quite easily that it shares a certain amount of qualities with Dark Forces. Mostly, I'd say, in the presentation of the cutscenes.
Yes. Yeah, so Revenge of the Sith GBA. It's a side-scrolling game, so it's like a bit like stuff like Final Fight, Double Dragon, or whatever.
Yeah.
You play as either Obi-Wan or Anakin.
Yes.
We played as Obi-Wan. You can play this game co-op. We opted to not do that, and instead I played the game solo.
Yeah, I think we didn't want to fuck around with GBA emulator net.
That felt like a rabbit hole. I didn't want to go down.
Yeah.
There's not really that much to say about the game. It's a side scroller based on episode 3. The game felt insanely long, but that might be because we played it over a pretty extended period of time.
Yeah, I think it took like a month.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
When in reality you could finish like the game in a day probably.
Yeah. I have written down that I was a bit zoned out of this one, if I'm being honest.
I'm struggling to like remember anything good to tell you about the game. I remember that
I like the locales, and I like a lot of the sprites.
I mean, like technically the sprites are okay. I didn't like the art style.
Oh yeah, it doesn't feel like Star Wars at all. It doesn't look like Star Wars.
Yeah, it looks like some kind of like
I've written down here that it looks okay. That we'll see if people watching this can tune in to this wavelength. I think you will be able to. I've written down this. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith GBA, the sprite art and the overall look of the game, it looks like a DeviantArt sprite mock-up of a game made by a fan, and then I have in quotations sort of the I put M. Bison in KOF energy, that sort of thing, like someone is trying to fake. It looks like a fake game, I think.
I was going to say that they looked a bit like Mugen characters or something.
But I think that's similar.
Yes.
That is like a fan thing.
And specifically like art style wise, I don't like this 2000-ish era American Western comic style stuff like, what the hell is it called? Like Ben 10 or whatever.
Yeah, it does have Ben 10 energy. Or Kim Possible.
Like this American Western anime knockoff kind of thing. I don't like it. Like very Cartoon Network, etc.
Yeah. I think the game has an unintentionally fun... Like, this is what I remember. The game is unintentionally very funny. Because it has pretty funny cutscenes, and the animation or the sprite portraits and the writing.
Yeah, now I remember.
Is funny.
Yes.
Because they haven't. Either they use lines directly from the script in a weird way.
Yeah.
Or they try to write new stuff, and the writers. Maybe there was a writer strike going on. and Conan's friend wrote this, or whoever.
I feel like one of the things that lifts these sorts of games for me when we play them is that for these games that do not have voice acting, we usually supply our own voice acting.
Yes.
And those parts usually turn out to be the most fun experiences concerning the game. And this game, I got to practice a lot my very believable Obi-Wan voice, which I will not utter here.
We did play as Obi-Wan as well, should be noted. We did not pick Anakin. Oh, sorry.
Yes. I was considering for 2 milliseconds, should we play again as Anakin? And then I deleted the emulator, so that didn't happen.
Yeah. It would be interesting to know how long this game is in actuality versus how long it felt like.
Yeah.
I don't think I have that much more to say about this until we go into who wins and loses. So at this point, for anyone joining in, we write reviews for these games as we finish them. So we both have a review.
Yes.
We're gonna read for each other and see if it jaunts some memory. Here is the review for Star Wars Revenge of the Sith GBA. The arcadey side-scrolling lanes format feels like something we ought to have left behind. This because you can't hit a fucking thing. The graphics are pretty decent. Funny pixel art portraits just makes you feel like the game ought to have been a point-and-click game instead. The dueling system feels like shit to play, like everything is an unseeable mix-up, and why the fuck does Anakin do 3 million damage when he charges Flash Kick? The boss fight versus Dooku in the beginning of the game was longer than the entirety of the rest of the runtime. Yoda made Oscar extremely racist for a little while when he turned blue and said, "Please, Massa." The Force powers and the stat system is entirely irrelevant. Star Wars is probably not good.
A scathing review.
Yes.
Clearly.
I don't know if I recall all things that occurred during this playthrough.
I'm starting to feel like maybe a lot of what went on during this playthrough has been lost to the mysteries of time for good reason.
What does it mean for Yoda to turn blue?
I don't want to say anything else about that.
No, read the review for Dark Forces.
Yes, Star Wars Dark Forces. Good sound on regular blasters. Very loud and sparky explosion, like in the movies. Generally good sound. Is this just gonna be what to say? Interesting to see proto versions of stuff you recognize well from Jedi Knight. Level design starts out quite reasonable, but goes completely bonkers after a while. Extreme amount of buttons and elevators and stuff like that. Very cool cutscenes. LucasArts should have made a Star Wars adventure game. The music falls a little. Cool, I think this is a Google translation. But yes, the music...
it falls a little,
it
as
falls
they
a
say.
little, exactly. Cool with old, new Star Wars. Concussion rifle is based.
Okay, I'll give it up.
I felt the game was too long. That's probably why I quit halfway through. Saw a Dark Trooper and he died. Dark Troopers as a concept is still whack, but this was at least the first time they appeared, so it gets somewhat of a pass.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Anyways, those were the reviews. I guess because we vote now basically what wins and what loses, and so far we have been 100% in tune with each other.
Are you expecting that to change here?
I don't know. I'll say that I'll pretty firm. I'll just lay it out here. I'll pretty firmly give the win to Dark Forces.
Yes, I was gonna say the same. Like Revenge of the Sith GBA, first of all, like it's based on the movie, so it's not like even an original thing like that. It's an adaptation, and then it's the entire thing seems like I felt it was really low effort, and
I would not agree with that. I think for a GBA game, this is the thing for me, right? This game, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. No. Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith GBA was 100% not just some kid. A ton of kids. There are like hundreds of them out there. I'm certain of this. This game, they love it. They played it 500 hours in their mom's car.
I guess you could make an argument that probably more kids have played Revenge of the Sith GBA than have played Dark Forces.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because when Dark Forces came out, probably most kids
I think my argument here, I still think Dark Forces wins this, but I just want to say that I don't think that this GBA game is not even a video game or whatever.
But you didn't play it.
No, I didn't. But I probably would have crushed that shit, I think that more people alive today consider this one of their favorite gaming experiences over Dark Forces. Because maybe there's one person in the universe who likes Dark Forces more than any of the other Jedi Knight games.
I'll disagree. Because I feel like, how many kids really own a GBA?
1 million kids. Only kids own GBAs.
I didn't own a GBA.
No, but you didn't play Dark Forces as a kid.
I also never was a kid, really.
No. Born this way.
Well, okay. So Dark Forces moves on.
Yes. And I think, for me, Revenge of the Sith loses out by being... It's just too boring.
Yeah.
The game, it sort of looks like a boring cartoon. It plays like a boring cartoon. The, racist Blue Yoda aside, there aren't enough weird things or interesting things. Like if the game had been, because we haven't really talked about this, but you play a lane fighting or beat 'em up versus droids, and then Order 66, you fight the clone troopers. But then cut to boss fights, you have this sort of pseudo fighting game.
Yeah.
Which I think is the most interesting part of the game by far. But it's bad. And B, it's not fleshed out and weird enough to be memorable. So the only potentially memorable part of the game just falls kind of flat.
Yes.
Also, the music is trash.
Yes.
Trash adaptations of the wrong tracks.
You fuck up the music in Star Wars, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think they fuck up the music in Dark Forces as well, though, I'll say.
Yeah. I don't remember any of the music from that game.
Also bad adaptations, I'll say. Well, that's it, I suppose. That's Dark Forces beats GBA. I think these were two... I was about to say Dark Horses, but that's not true, because that means they will have a chance. I believe, almost regardless of whatever is next for Dark Forces, it's gonna get cut in half.
Yes, cut in half with a lightsaber and thrown into a dark...
Metamorphosis!